What made you let your child become homeless? What made me let my own child end up homeless? My son Dylan dropped out of college halfway through junior year, saying he needed to focus on his art full-time. That dream went on for a year and a half. Every day I'd wake up at 6 a.m. for my nursing shift while he slept until 2 in the afternoon. I'd drag myself home tired, only to find him stretched out on my couch, eating the food I paid for, dirty dishes piled everywhere. His, paints and brushes covered the dining table, and he'd snap if I asked him to clear it so I could serve dinner. "You're messing with my creative energy," he'd say. I ended up doing his laundry because the smell from his room made the whole house unbearable. I cooked dinner every night, watched him eat like he hadn't seen food all day, and not even a thank you before he disappeared back into the studio, which was really just my guest room full of half-finished canvases and empty energy drink cans. When I suggested a part-time job, he'd roll his eyes and remind me I was the one who always told him to follow his dreams. His art hadn't sold a single piece, yet I kept paying for his expensive paints and canvases. Every week, I'd drive him to the art supply store, watch him fill a cart that cost more than my groceries. He used my car for everything, always bringing it back on empty. The worst part was the friends. He'd invite them over for creative sessions, which really meant drinking my wine, eating my food, and blasting music until 3 a.m. while I had work the next day. They'd spread paint and charcoal across my dining table, laughing while I cleaned up after them. If I asked Dylan to show some respect, he'd guilt-trip me, making me feel like I was unreasonable for expecting him to act like an adult. One evening I came home early with a migraine and found them scraping paint off canvases with my good kitchen knives. The blades were destroyed. When I confronted them, one of his friends smirked. "Maybe don't buy such fancy stuff if you're going to freak out when people use it." Dylan nodded in agreement. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for tea and overheard them in the living room talking about me. "Why is your mom so uptight? She's bitter," one friend said. Dylan replied, "She's jealous because I'm chasing my dreams while she's stuck wiping old people's butts. She peaked in high school and wants to drag me down to her level." They all laughed. Another friend joked, "At least you don't pay rent." Dylan said, "Exactly. Why should I? She should be grateful I'm here. Without me, she's just some sad nurse coming home to an empty house." Hearing that, I realized I wasn't his mom anymore. I was his free meal ticket, the punchline to his jokes. The next day, while he was out, I called a locksmith, packed his stuff in trash bags, and left them on the porch. When he got back and saw the locked door, he banged and shouted, "You can't kick me out! I'm your son!" I told him through the door that he was grown and it was time to take care of himself. He begged, cursed, even pretended to cry. I was just joking with my friends. You know I don't mean that stuff. I'll get a job, I'll change. But I'd heard the truth in his voice that night. "You've had 18 months to change, Dylan," I said. "Figure it out." 3 weeks later, he called me sobbing. Every friend had kicked him out. Nobody wanted a freeloading house guest who didn't clean or contribute. His art career collapsed without my money for supplies. He got a job at a fast food place but was fired within a week for being late and mouthing off. "Please let me come home," he begged. "I've learned my lesson." But I had learned mine, too. I told him I loved him, but he needed to learn how to survive on his own. Last month, I drove past a homeless shelter and saw him sitting